Alright, so I'm going to start with the PBH accessory drive. I've already thrown the passenger side belt tensioner on there, as you can see. I'm going to go ahead and thread these studs from the alternator in there and get the alternator set up first, and then I'll throw the power steering bracket on and the AC bracket on. The alternator is the most tedious. Everything else is pretty smooth. This rod unthreaded itself, and now I'm fighting to try to get it back to where it's supposed to be. So I gotta like put two nuts together, and then hopefully I can spin this out. Hopefully this works. Luckily I bought this vise the other day, but yeah, I guess I'm gonna just try to see, because this is the side that's supposed to bottom out on the front of the timing cover. So goddamn, I'm tired. I need to make it this long, so I gotta thread it back through until this is around the length. I'm gonna try to get it within one thread, and then yeah, try to get this thing installed. I don't know how I'm gonna, I guess I'm gonna have to get it where it's supposed to be, and then put a jam nut on it, and then thread it into the block and then pull the jam nut off. I don't know. I'm gonna have to try to figure this out, or I might call PBH. Alright, I finally got it figured out. I kept having to thread bolts back and forth and back and forth, and making essentially just making jam nuts against each other to get this thing where it's supposed to be. And then I can thread this into the block, and then I can hold this part with a wrench and back this off, and then hopefully never fucking touch it again. But I'm gonna call PBH and let them know. Maybe they'll send me a new one, maybe not. I don't know. I'm gonna tell them it was defective, but I made it work. So we'll see what happens. All right, so it took me an hour and a bunch of brainstorming, but I finally got it on there, the lengths that it's supposed to be. So hopefully this works now. All right, so I'm running a Ford Performance AC Delete pulley for now. I have my AC system. I don't know if it works or not. I need to get it checked out. I pulled it off the car as soon as I got it, but an issue I'm running into, in case you have this same one, when I try to fit it into these locating dowels, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show you or not. But pretty much it won't let me into the bottom locating dowel. See, I'm just barely off because I'm touching the block. So I might grind on the block just a hair right here, just barely, and then I'm gonna grind most of it off here. Alright, I got it on the dowels, if it'll focus. As you can see, there's about 1 cunt hair of space right there. I just knocked the dowels in. I haven't tightened the bolts up yet, but everything looks good. I'll go ahead and get these bolts in with a little bit of medium strength thread locker, and then I can go over and throw the power steering brackets on, and then we'll be all done with the accessory drive. So I'll have the accessory drive done, the headers, the trans, the K-member. Almost ready, baby. Yeah, so this is just part of swap life. More grinding. I forgot about on the Gen 2 how I had to grind here and here. This bolt won't even go in. This one goes in, but you can see the thread scrape. And then I don't know if you can see, but the threads hit on this one too. I don't know how I'm gonna clearance that, but I'm gonna try. And then I'm gonna clearance these couple spots, and then hopefully we can get this damn bracket on. All right, let's try this again. All right, I went ahead and installed my, I don't even know where the package is, but the ARP harmonic balancer bolt. It came with instructions. This is what I did. I put the lube on the threads, the underhead, and on the face of the crank, and then I just now torqued this thing to 100. As you can see, my little trick, I wrap a belt around the front and up over the snout, and then channel locks, and that always holds it still, because the belt being on the alternator and the, you know, freely spinning tensioner and AC delete, it wasn't doing nothing. So yeah, now we got our ARP crankshaft bolt. It's a 12 point. I like that because the 1/2 inch stuff with 12 point, it grabs really good, it doesn't strip. So now I'm gonna move on. Looks like we need to throw the driver's side tensioner on, and then we're gonna throw the power steering brackets on, and then I'm pretty much done with the engine, but before I need to put it in the car, really. You know, I gotta put the other belt on and the this stuff that attaches to the water pump. I can do that once it's in the car. Oh yeah, I do need to throw these sensors on. I really want to do something different with this than this doohickey. I'm hoping that instead of having to use this switch, I can use the sensor that's on the Coyote, because it has one wire coming off of it too, and then of course my fuel pressure. I have an AN adapter that it's an AN, and it clips onto here, and then it has the little hole so I can screw it in, and it leaves another fuel rail 3/8, so I can put an AN fitting on that. But as you can see, the 4.6 oil switch is one wire, and this is also one wire, so maybe this will feed my dummy gauge. I'm hoping. We'll see. I'm gonna try to tap into that. Maybe I can even tap my wiring into it, so we'll see what happens. But I want my, you know, digital readout oil pressure gauge to work as well. I have that on the pillar. This tells me exactly what the oil pressure is, and I definitely want to know that starting this engine for the first time. And then, you know, of course, fuel pressure. All right, so I got the bracket on. It was almost impossible to get on. As you can see, I literally had to beat with a rubber mallet, because it's like the exact width of this thing, and I cleaned the paint off too, so I know for sure that this is just like a 1/16 of an inch too narrow, or the timing cover was a 1/16 of an inch too thick. That's probably more likely. But yeah, I'm gonna throw the nut on the back of this, and then throw a bolt on here, and then I'm gonna have to decide what I want to do, because I have my power steering pump still hooked up in my car, and it works fine, but I do have a brand new power steering pump in the box over there somewhere, like that I bought because I thought I needed it, because the Cobra was leaking, and then I fixed the leak, and I was like, well, and I couldn't return it, so I just hung on to it in case I ever need it. So I thought about throwing that on there, but I don't want to go through the trouble of swapping the lines over and the pulley and everything, because I've already done so much extra stuff, if you can't tell. So I just want to get this thing together. So I'm gonna get these brackets on here, get the rest of the front of it on, and then I might start looking at ways I can slide this thing under there. I got 4 dollies, so I was thinking maybe put these jack stands on dollies and ratchet strap the jack stand to the dolly, then ratchet strap that around it so I can roll it this height right over there. I don't really want to set it on the oil pan, but I can put another one under the oil pan with a tire on it or something. I'll figure it out. This coming along nicely though. Alright, now I'm working on a bung for the temp sensor for the 4.6 dummy gauge. So this is the original 1997 Motorcraft temp sensor. It read on the gauge perfect, but when I bought an aftermarket sensor, it read on the hot side, but when I put an actual temp gauge on it, it was reading the same as what it used to. So the new sensors read different on the dummy gauge, so I'm gonna keep this old sensor because I know it reads correctly. But what I did was I put like 2 layers of pipe tape on this and then some red RTV, and you can see I pretty much bottomed it out. I turned it till I couldn't turn it no more. And now I'm gonna do the same thing with the sensor, and then we'll put this bung in the car. This is a 3/4, I believe, bung that is in the car, and this is 3/8, I think. So you gotta do like, or this is 1/2 inch. You gotta do like 3/4 to 3/8, and 3/8 to 1/2 inch. Then it'll go in the car. So I'm gonna get this finished up and then get it threaded into the car, and then I'm gonna start working on the oil contraption that I gotta make. All right, so I've just been doing little piddly stuff. I got the coolant bung in there and the coolant sensor. I'm using pipe thread tape and red RTV silicone on the threads of everything. So I got the Coyote sensor here. I might end up doing away with this because I'm not sure if the engine needs this signal or not, so I'm gonna leave it there. And then this will be for my 4.6 dummy gauge, and then this is for my actual oil pressure, so I can see the actual PSI readout. Yeah, so I got carried away. My brass fitting thing, I went ahead and made a heat shield for it. I have this stuff that's made, it's nice and thick fiberglass. I like cut it and then cut slits in it so I could Velcro it there and there, and then the spots I couldn't Velcro, I wrapped with that, make it look nice and neat. My digital temp sensor plugs in right here, and then of course the dummy gauge on the 4.6, and then I left the Coyote sensor because I don't know if the engine needs that signal or not. I also put a heat wrap right here now that we have these headers. Yeah, I think I've got everything I can do done to the engine. Oh, I got the water pump on it and the water pump pulley and some of the fittings. I want to get everything that I can think of on there that's gonna be easy to put on. Oh, after it's in the car, get everything else put on, rather. So everything's looking good. I am kind of concerned about the starter, but I double protected it the best I could, so. All right, so I decided to move on to my fuel system. You can see I've got my fuel filler neck out here because every time I go around the right hand corner, I have gas leaking. And I'll go ahead and show you. Everybody's like, oh, it's rubber grommet. My tank is brand new and the rubber grommet's brand new. And when I go around the right hand corner, gas pours all inside of here. So I knew that it was the filler neck. It was up inside where the trunk was, just above where it goes into the trunk. Let me see if I can find it. Yep, right there. And then there's a little pinhole right there. And the issue was, believe it or not, whoever owned this car before me, I guess it started leaking, and there was a towel wrapped around this, so it just made it 10 times worse. But I'm cleaning it up now. I'm gonna wire wheel it and then JB weld it and then paint it and then probably wrap it so this doesn't happen again, because essentially this has an inner tube and then an outer tube. So when the gas sloshes back up, I'm guessing it's coming out here and then running down. So I'll get it nice and sealed up. Yeah, so after cleaning it up, you can see there's way more than just that one hole I seen. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 pinholes in this thing. So I'm gonna get it cleaned up, and then well, I've got it cleaned up, but I'm gonna go work on the fuel system and kind of let this sit on my mind a little bit and think about how I want to fix it, and then go from there. I pumped with that transfer pump for probably an hour last night, and then I did it for like 5 minutes today, and I gave up and I just said screw it. So I got the whole tank out and I've got it balancing here, dumping it all out, because this stuff has, this is 95, well, it's probably 97 octane fuel, and I don't want to run it on the base tune and have them knock sensors going off right when this car's first starting. The Cobra was tuned for this higher octane, so just want to get it all out and get 91 in there. Alright, so I got the tank out and the snap ring off. Turns out, and you know, I put this tank in, but it was when I first bought the car, and I couldn't remember what pump was in it. I didn't really look. But it's already got a Walbro GSS 242. That's a 190 liter per hour pump. And with the control pack, it says that's all you need. So I'm pondering just leaving it, unless I can just plug this one up. Actually, yeah, I think I can just plug this one up and it's done. But yeah, I'm gonna swap these fuel pumps out. I guess I'll hang on to this one because it's still good. And then I'll probably wipe this thing down and see about making some AN lines to go on here, because I was looking underneath of the car and the factory Ford lines are braided steel and they still look rather good. But I don't know. I kind of want to just do it the way that we did the last swap and put the fuel filter and regulator in place where the regular fuel filter is. Let me see if I can find this. Yeah, here it is. Sorry, I've got stuff all over the place. But eventually I can stick this fuel filter in the spot where my regular fuel filter is now, and just run one line to the front. Instead of running a regulator here and making that fuel travel all the way back, I can just have the fuel travel in and then back out, and then it regulates the pressure from here all the way to the front of the car, and then I'll just have my one hard line just jump straight over to the fuel rail, and it'll be cleaner. I won't have two lines and a regulator and all that in the engine bay. I'll just have one line coming up. So yeah, I'm gonna get all this done, and then I might try to push this thing under the car tonight. I'm not sure. All right, so I got the Walbro 255 back in the tank, and you seen the top of my hanger was rusty, so I just dusted some primer on it just to keep the corrosion off of it. So what I'm gonna do next is throw the AN fittings on here. I'm gonna show you guys how they go on, and then I'm gonna actually make the lines tomorrow. So I decided not to wait on an extra set of hands. I'm putting it in. So I got it most of the way over here. I just took one of these dollies and set it right down, and used some of my nice straps to strap it in. Now I'm just gonna get this thing under here. I've been at it for a while now. I wasn't really filming much because I've just been fighting with this thing by myself. If you can't tell, I'm having quite the time. I'm using my transmission jack and my floor jack, and I've got it there. I just remembered I gotta grab my spring perches though. I gotta throw my spring perches up there. So I'm gonna go get the UPR spring perches, and then I'm gonna knock these through. And then my driveway's on a slant, so this side is like close, and then this side over here is still a little bit off. So I'm gonna have to bolt one side up and then set the car level, if that makes sense, and I can bolt the other side in. I've got everything bolted up pretty much, and you know, I did this entire swap with 2 floor jacks and 3 sets of jack stands. So if you're hesitant thinking that this is something that you can't do, you can definitely do it in your driveway on jack stands, because I did it. I could have pulled this crane out and lifted it into place, but I just wanted to do it just to prove a point that I could do the whole swap on jack stands. I just got to tighten everything up, and then I'll be ready to start wiring it up, honestly. Get the first fire up. Yeah, so I'm running into a problem that I thought I might run into. The top part of my frame over here, the very top of this got a little soft because the nut rusted. So I'm gonna have to make a bigger washer because it's like starting to dent the metal down. So I'm gonna bolt everything else up nice and tight, and then I'm gonna take this one out and do some surgery on that area in the near future. All right, so I wanted to show you guys something really quick. I had the I had the K-member bolted to the frame almost, and then I realized that the steering shaft will not clear through here. So the only way to get the steering shaft to clear is you have to remove it and then fish it back through the K-member right there, especially if you wrap your headers. So I marked everything, and my steering wheel was locked luckily, and of course all the bolts that require a thread locker get thread locker here in this garage. But I'm gonna bolt this thing back up, and hopefully I can get the K-member bolted back up, and I can go in and go to bed. I did it, guys. I finally got this thing in here. Doing it with just jack stands is hard. If I would have used the crane, it would have been much easier, but got all the bolts threaded, got the transmission mounts on, motor mounts are nice and tight. Everything was really tight on this install, but I was expecting to go in about an hour ago, but that steering shaft issue really threw a wrench in my sleep plan. So having to fish it up backwards, that's just something to keep in mind. Don't go to try to drop this thing in here with the steering shaft in the car. Now that I finally got it in, and I'm not like running around like a chicken with his head cut off. I finally got my garage floor cleaned, and now I'm just doing some tidying up in here, wiping everything down. It's easiest to clean the engine bay when not everything's in it, so I'm just wiping everything down, touching up stuff where you know, it's like rubbed and stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap this harness here with the fabric tape. Just a few things here and there just to give it a cleaner look. Yeah, so I'm mixing up some JB Weld. I have a couple different kinds. I went ahead and just did the high heat stuff. So I'm gonna fill in these holes. I got it sanded down and wire wheeled in the spots that are really bad. So I'm gonna fill in all these holes and then dust it with some primer and then probably paint it flat black. And then I'm gonna move back over to the car and get back to tidying things up. I kind of got carried away playing with the engine bay, just cleaning and touching up little spots that got nicked and things like that. I was gonna put my fuse box in the fender, but then I was thinking, like, fuse boxes belong in the engine bay, and I don't want to be too extreme like some people do and just like put nothing in the engine bay except the engine. There's other things that belong in there, and I think it looks good where it's sitting. So I went ahead, and I really like the fabric type heat tape, so I just think it looks clean. So I wrapped all that with fabric heat tape, and then I was just like cleaning everything, deep cleaning. But yeah, it's almost ready to start throwing this thing back together. Oh, and something else to think about. If you are going to do spring perches with coil springs, like me, with these Speed Engineering headers, the isolator will not fit up in there, and the coil spring, you actually have to turn it and put it up in there, but it clears fine once you get it in there. It's just the flat part of the top edge that's just a little bit tight. But yeah, if you're going to do spring perches, there's going to be an issue with the isolators. I may just take a little bit out of the side of it so that I can like maybe still get it up in there. You can see it's like just trying to get you a good angle. It's just barely in the way. The isolator might actually squeeze past it, but I haven't tried to force it yet. I just realized you can see the headers from the engine bay now. This is so sick. I really like the clean engine bay look. It's not going to be like that for long, unfortunately. Oh, and I just wanted to show you guys something that I do. So when I'm putting all these connections back together, I always get me a little bit of dielectric grease, and I put it on like the outside edges of the plug. You know what I mean? To like make it to where when you push the button, it clicks in and it does nothing breaks and it slides on and off easy. And then after I've wiped it all on, I just kind of dip it in there and just smear a tiny bit on the leads. Man, that thing looks clean. I almost don't even want to put the cover on it. That looks so good. Yeah, so I've just been really just tidying things up and getting everything in place where it needs to be. I've like fished my starting harness through to see what changes I needed to make to it. I've just been kind of measuring and doing things like that. Nothing really too much to see because I'm gonna work on all my wiring tomorrow. Thinking we may bust into the control pack, start seeing where we're going to start putting some of this stuff, and yeah. The filler neck is looking good. It's still a little tacky, so I'm going to let it finish drying, and then I'm going to prime it, and then just spray it flat black. I won't spray it from here down. I'll cover this in like some grease, and it's time for the radiator, baby. I bought this when I supercharged the 4.6, and I never got a chance to put it in because the car was running so cool. I didn't really need it, so I wasn't like in a hurry. But now I'm gonna throw this thing in my car and see how it looks. While I was down here, I figured I'd go ahead and tap in to get my tack signal out of here. It's pin number 13, yellow with violet. I went ahead and cut it back and then soldered it. Now I'm gonna tape it up, and then I'm gonna run it up the harness. That way it's like separate from the connector. And then I'm going to bed. Engine bay. But what I wanted to touch base with you on is the heater hoses. Almost everybody makes new hoses and just they buy these adapters and then they make their own hoses. But what I did, I wanted to retain the factory hoses if possible. So I did, and what I did was this is the 3/4 inch Gen 1 hose. It just hooks right up. The 5/8 Gen 1 hose, I'm pretty sure that, the 5/8 Gen 1 hose goes to like a completely different spot, and it's like all weird. But I had a Gen 2 5/8 hose, and the Gen 2, I think the heater core is similar to the way this one's set up. So, but it was a little bit too long, so I cut the Gen 2, and then I cut a piece off of the Gen 1 that curves. So I'm going to be making, pretty much making a heater hose piece like this with this little 5/8 adapter. I'm going to hook them two together, and then this should sit just like this, and then go back along these rails, and then this piece will connect here and then slide into that, and then it'll be nice and clean. All right, so I want to be able to read my exact fuel pressure, so I bought this adapter. It goes with this electronic sensor. These sensors are really nice for oil pressure, fuel pressure, and other things. It's all made by Glow Shift, but pretty much it's just like an AN fitting almost. It just quick connects. So you 3/8 quick connect. You just slide it on the fuel rail, and then this piece sits down there, and then you'll pop that back, and then you thread this back piece in, and it'll lock that piece onto the fuel rail. After I do that, there's two holes. There's a top hole and a bottom hole, so I'll probably turn this thing sideways and plug this side, and then put the sensor on this side. That way I can run the wire along this loom. All right, I've been jumping around doing little stuff here and there. By the way, I don't know why, but with the SVE radiator, the bushing would fit on this side, but on this side, as you can see, I had to pull on this radiator with like at least 100 pounds of force to get it to clip into that. And I had to, of course, pull the bushing out. I have no idea why it's like that, because it's in the peg down there. Maybe I accidentally bent that peg or something, and that's what the issue is. Yeah, something to think about. All right, I got my fuel pressure sensor ran. It looks super clean. You can't even really tell that this thing is aftermarket. Kind of looks like it's part of the car. Of course, put the quick connect on there. I got one side plugged off, and then I got my fuel pressure sensor here. I turned it downward, and then the wire, it just tucks right up underneath of the injector and coil loom, and then I went underneath of the intake cam sensor cord, just so everything's tucked up under there and hidden. So yeah, and then it comes up here and of course goes into this little wire loom, and yeah, I got that knocked out. So when I start the car now, I'll know my fuel pressure and I'll know my oil pressure. Them coolant hoses look factory. I mean, I'm happy with everything that's went on the car so far. It's just the only thing I'm a little annoyed about is it says it's going to take 2 weeks for my intake to get here, which sucks. So I may end up having to do the first startup, or you know, test startup with just this thing on there. So yeah, I got my engine harness wrapped. I've just been doing a bunch of little stuff, cleaning things up. Gonna be tapping into these wires underneath here. I need a starter request and an ignition relay. So for the starter, it's gonna be that pink wire, or the white wire with the pink stripe that you see there. And then it's weird because there's actually like 3 or 4 wires in here that are hot for start and run. The tan and white one you see there, the brown and yellow, and that thick yellow one, they're all hot for start and run, and they don't lose signal. So I'm probably gonna tap either the tan one or the brown one, and then I'll be done under the dash. I can put this panel back up under there. Alright guys, I figured I'd catch you up because I've just been doing a bunch of busy work. It's not really stuff that you can see. I've just been like trimming and hiding and stuff. So I got all of my 12 volt wires ran to the battery, the starter, the alternator, and the fuse box. And then I just got to do wherever that thing is, the last fuse box, or the last fuse. I have the fuse box in the cabin, so I'm gonna put that in the cabin as well. I took care of the grounds. I put the grounds over here because I already had a amp wire ran to the trunk, so I just converted this to a ground. And that harness that like usually grounds on the battery and grounds to the firewall and then plugs into these grounds down here, I just fished all of that through here and just kind of hooked it up. I'm gonna, you know, probably shorten this or zip tie it, and then I have another one of these grounds jumping off, and it goes back here. And I have the engine block grounded by itself right here. I took the paint off first, of course, and then this wrapped wire over here goes to the ground that's right at the end of the engine harness, and then there's also another ground right here on the engine harness. So I added more wire and wrapped them together. Here's the other ground. So these 2 grounds connect into one ground, and then they go down there to that battery ground. And then I got the battery back here. Haven't really done anything yet, but I got my cores and everything ran. I got my fuel pump wire hooked up. You might not even be able to see that, but essentially I ran the fuel pump wire back here. I don't have my flashlight, but yeah, I plugged up the pigtail for in the cabin and ran the fuel pump wire. I still got to hook up the starter request and the ignition relay, and then plug up the gas pedal. Yeah, so I have, you know, I'm real particular about stuff, and I have ADHD, so I kind of like do everything at once, and I jump around a lot. So I've been working on fuel lines over here. When I work on something for too long, I get bored and I just jump to something else. But I'm doing my fuel lines like a new edge because, let me explain this. The AN adapters will not go on these hard lines. My Cobra hard lines have an extra nipple down here, and the AN fittings are not made to go over that, so I can't put AM fittings here. So these lines are gonna go, probably. I gotta like hide them or cover, I don't know. I gotta get them to where they can't be seen because they're not gonna be used. There's just gonna be one fuel line that comes up and goes to the fuel rail. That's it. So, and then, oh yeah, I don't know if, yeah, last night when I worked, my phone was dead. So that's the 12 volt that goes all the way back to the trunk. This grommet here is a factory grommet. It was just there. I guess they left it there in case you'd need to do something like this, but I just cut out the grommet and ran it down there. So yeah, I'm gonna get back to working on my fuel lines. I'm doing it like a new edge system. So I'm just making 2 short sections that go to the fuel filter and regulator, and then one fuel line that goes all the way to the front, straight to the fuel rail. So yeah.